Alright, guys, so this is a three-way crossover fanfiction idea that you guys actually, on my Patreon, voted for, and this one won by a country mile. Like, it was insane, like, how much, how much it was, like, how much it won by. Like, everyone else, like, this one won by, like, 40 over like 50% of the vote. So this one won, and as you can see, this is a three-way crossover between Spawn, Gargoyles, and Witch. Yep. So let's get into it. So the story begins late one night in New York, where a man is accosting a homeless man, and he's just beating on him, and he's just for the fun of it. Like, him and his friends are just like, just beating on this homeless man. He's like, you know, you got your papers, boy? You know, you hearing me? Like, you ain't gonna do anything. Like, you're just a pest here. You know, go back to your own country, you worthless animal. And then the chains just come out, snag his friend, and just start ripping him apart. Out comes Spawn from the shadows, and he's like, seems like someone likes to pick fights. How about picking a fight with me? So Spawn grabs the guy, and the guy's immediately like, "No, stop! Wait a minute! You can't do this to me, man! I'm a cop!" And he's like, "You're a cop? You just made it easier." Like, good. I was almost concerned for a second, but just before Spawn kills him, in comes flying in Goliath, who just just punches Spawn across the face, and he's like, "That's enough, demon." So Spawn, and that's when the other gargoyles arrive too, and he's like, "What kind of demons are these?" So Spawn's instantly like, "What kind of demons are these? And why does one of them sound very familiar?" So Spawn fights all five of the entire Manhattan clan and beats them all, but they manage to escape, and he slinks back to the shadows. Meanwhile, the fight did not go unnoticed, because guess who caught the fight? That would be Will, from the leader of W.I.T.C.H. And she saw the whole fight, and she thought it was monsters from Kandrakar. Although she does bring up, like, she's talking to Cornelia and Haylin the next day, talking about like seeing a fight between all these monsters in New York. And Haylin is like, you know, it's kind of funny. Maybe you just saw like those urban legends of the Red Cloak Man and the gargoyles on the skies. Yeah, it's like, really, that's a thing. He's like, yeah, it's just like those giant turtles in the sewers, or that dragon in Chinatown. Excuse me, dragon from Brooklyn. I forgot. Like, Jake lives in Brooklyn. I knew originally it was supposed to be Chinatown, but like they put it in Brooklyn. So yeah, that dragon that lives in Brooklyn. So yeah, now that's just like all the characters like seeing each other, and we've set up the pace. What is the main crux of this story, you're asking? Like, what's the main story here? Like, what's the real story? Well, the real story is that Demona has broken into a casket all the way in Sumeria. Like, she's gone all the way to Sumeria, broken in, and taken a fragment of this artifact, and it's not of Earth. It is not of this Earth. And she takes it and basically says to a partner she's in communication with, who's like, "I got the artifact, do you have yours?" And her partner's like, "Yeah, I got it. Now we gotta wait for the third person to get it, and unfortunately it's all the way back in New York. Maybe I should have just sent you there." And she's like, "You could have, but we both know he's just as capable." So it's this other third artifact is basically on display at the New York Museum, and who goes to steal it is a certain, shall we say, clown? Yeah, so Violator has stolen the artifact, but his work doesn't go unnoticed, because Witch shows up, and because they were like sensing a demonic aura, and they're like, "What's all that about? Maybe it's that demon I saw the other day." And they go, and Violator's like, "Ugh, beat it, Sailor Moon. I do not want, like, you do not want to fight me. I ain't got time to deal with Power Rangers right now." So they fight. Violator, like, just kicks ass until Spawn comes crashing through the window, and he's just like, oh, I've been waiting for this clown. So Spawn and Violator get into the action, but Violator gets away. He's like, oh, you're gonna love... Oh, Simmons, you're gonna love what I've got planned for you. So he gets away. Spawn tries to go after him, but Will and the other members of W.I.T.C.H try to stop Spawn. He's like, get out of my way, kid. Of course, the ruckus has attracted the attention of the Gargoyles who arrive, and Spawn is still pretty sore about like the fight that broke out, and he's like, you were protecting thugs, you winged asshole. And he's like, they were police officers. What's the difference? So Will, by this point, breaks up the fight before another fight breaks out, and she's like, "What? Who was that? Like, who was that?" And Spawn explains, like, because Spawn isn't like, I ain't got time to, I don't have time to justify myself or whatever. He's just like, fine, fuck it, whatever. I'll just hang with you guys. So Spawn explains that's a demon from hell. His name's Violator. He works for a demon named Abolja. And whatever is going on here, it has to do with that artifact. So we got to figure out what that is. They do a little digging, and they discover it's a piece. It's one of 3 pieces. Because Will is like, when they're looking at the artifact that was stolen, Haylin mentions, like, didn't I see something like that on Kandrakar? And Spawn's like, Kandra what? So they explain they get their magic from this place called Kandrakar, and it's an artifact from Kandrakar. So we find out that the 3 people behind this are Nerissa, Violator, and Demona. So this evil triumvirate has more or less been collecting 3 pieces of an artifact that was an ancient super weapon. More or less what it was in this story is that ages ago there was a war between Kandrakar and Hell. Yeah, Hell didn't just go to war with heaven. There was a lost war in Hell, and that war was with Kandrakar. So the Hell Kandrakar war happened when one of the lords of Kandrakar summoned a demon from Hell to help destroy their enemies. The demon turned on him and killed him, and that killed and ate his children, and that sprang into a whole war. Can you guess who that was, by the way? Can you probably guess which demon that probably was? Yeah. That fat bastard. Anyway, so more or less the war spiraled so bad out of control it ended up on Earth. Like the war between Kandrakar on Earth and Kandrakar and Hell spiraled out of control and was on Earth. This broke the rules in between Heaven and Hell, and Heaven had to step in, and God ended up teaming up with the Kandrakarian gods, and they created a thing called the War Storm. The War Storm was this massive apocalyptic weapon that could more or less like cause an apocalypse on Kandrakar to wipe out both the legions of hell that were on Kandrakar, kill a shit ton of demons in hell, and actually caused what is known as the Black Summer in the 1800s. That was it more or less caused like volcanoes to erupt and cause ash to just billow out of control in that time frame. So there you go. So the War Storm was made from an artifact, and it was divided into 3 pieces. One piece was left in Kandrakar, one piece was on Earth, and another piece was supposed to be in Hell, but Violator took it and hid it on Earth. So, yeah. Now, it's interesting to note that when Spawn hears all this, he's like, whatever, this is a weapon so powerful that it could take out massive armies in Heaven, so why didn't Heaven take it? And to which Goliath kind of surmises maybe God was so ashamed of making this, he felt like he needed to even the playing field. And Spawn immediately goes, I've known God. He doesn't play like that. So the 3 groups more or less form an uneasy. They basically form a uneasy alliance between them. And by uneasy alliance, I mean like both the Gargoyles and Witch are like, oh, cool, let's hang out and team up. Spawn's the one being the asshole, because of course it's Simmons being the asshole. Now that Nerissa, Demona, and Violator have the 3 pieces, they need to go to where to activate the weapon. They need to go the exact spot where the Warstorm was activated on Kandrakar. But they already realized that all 3 of their enemies have united. So they more or less send a united effort of some of the monsters from Kandrakar, Overkill, and the Pack. They more or less get like a united front of villains to take on all three of their opponents at once. Of course, that slows them down. They get to Kandrakar, and that's when some of the ruling class of Kandrakar are like, is that a spawn? Get him out of here. Because it turns out that a spawn led the armies against Kandrakar ages ago, so they're aware of what the spawn are, the hell spawns are. So yeah, Spawn is just having a great time at this point. But by now, the team of heroes find the 3 of them putting the artifact together to create the Warstorm. Spawn, Witch, and the Gargoyles all unite, fight them, and I wanted to have like a fun scene where they basically switch opponents. So like Demona fights, Spawn, Nerissa fights the Gargoyles, and Witch takes on, well, actually, let me flip that. The Gargoyles take on Violator, and the Violator and Witch takes on fuck. It just escaped me. I blanked, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like they all switch opponents, and I want to have this cool scene where like Demona's like, "You can't kill me, I'm an immortal," and Spawn says, "Immortal? Then I'm gonna have some real fun." So Spawn basically just like tears Demona's arms and legs off. He tears her wings off. He more or less snaps her neck in a way that like paralyzes her from the neck down, and then just starts peeling her face off. And even everyone's like, "What the fuck are you doing, man?" And he's like, "I'm ending this." Because we all know Al Simmons has to be extra. So by the end of it, Spawn uses all of a ton of his energy to contain the Warstorm, and by the end of it, they break up the pieces again, and Goliath basically says, "We can't let this fall into the wrong hands again. So what we need to do is take these, not tell anyone where we're hiding them, and we'll make sure this, because we can't destroy these pieces." So Spawn takes his piece and just chucks it out into the Hudson River, because that's more or less what he would do. The Will and the others hide their piece in the depths of Kandrakar and just bury it in an unmarked mine. And as for Goliath and the Gargoyles, they basically hide it throughout time. Like they hide their piece using the Phoenix Gate and hide it within the time stream. So it's kind of like in and out of time. So there you go, guys. That is pretty much my 3-way crossover for Gargoyles, Spawn, and Witch. You guys tell me in the comments below, what did you guys think of it? Did you guys like it, hate it? Comment below, let me know. And as always, I'd like to thank everyone for voting on this. If you would like to join the special polls and whatnot on Patreon, just hit the link below, head on over to Patreon. Other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.